Her daughter-in-law screamed at the cruise terminal, "Who the hell did this?" Helen didn't answer. She was 200 miles away, sipping tea. They used her home, her money, her silence. They booked a luxury vacation without her, the woman who raised their roof. So she rewrote their plans with a single click, because being the mother doesn't mean being the doormat. I came home with stitches and silence. They were too busy packing sunscreen to notice the scar across my stomach. Helen stepped carefully through the front door, gripping the side rail like it might pull her all the way in. Her abdomen still ached, each movement a tight reminder that her body had been cut open, rearranged, and sewn back together just 10 days ago. A warm welcome was what she imagined. A hug, maybe even flowers on the kitchen counter. But the first thing she saw wasn't her son's smile. It was an open suitcase, and beside it, flip-flops. 4 pairs, none hers. From the second floor came voices, not laughter, but hushed urgency. Zippers, hangers, the shuffle of fabric. She paused at the bottom of the stairs, listening, trying to tell herself they were cleaning or organizing something. Then she heard Maya say, "Did you pack the coral or the blue?" "I told you, Coral, you look better in that one," Alex responded, his voice distant but chipper. Helen blinked, grounding herself in the moment. Her bag still hung on her shoulder. No one had noticed the door open, no one had called out. She walked toward the living room, careful, slow, and saw 2 more bags near the couch. One carry-on had a luggage tag that read, "Maya W. Deck 8, Cabin 236, Deck?" She stood over it. Her eyes scanned the tag again, her brain connecting dots she didn't want to see. Maya entered the room a few seconds later, holding 2 bathing suits and looking startled when she saw Helen. "Oh, you're home early," Maya said, smiling with tight lips. "We thought maybe the doctor would keep you another day." "He didn't," Helen replied evenly, setting her purse down. Maya hovered near the bags. "I'll clear these up. Sorry it's a little chaotic. Alex and I, well, we've been meaning to talk to you." Helen tilted her head. "About?" Before Maya could answer, Alex's voice called from upstairs. "Babe, did you print the boarding passes?" Helen's chest constricted. Maya smiled awkwardly, then turned to yell back, "They're by the printer." Helen didn't ask. She didn't accuse. She simply said she was tired and shuffled down the hall to the guest room. Her room now, apparently. The next morning, while Maya was on a call and Alex was in the shower, Helen walked quietly into the office. Papers were scattered on the desk. Trip insurance, sunscreen recommendations, a cruise line welcome packet. Beneath it all, 4 boarding passes. She picked them up. Alex W., Maya W., Lena Patel, Nisha Patel. Her name wasn't there. Helen sat down slowly, trying to suppress the rise of heat in her chest. Her hands trembled as she reached for her reading glasses. She double-checked every line. No mistake. Later that evening, when Maya left her phone in the kitchen, Helen saw a name flash across the screen, Lena Patel. Instinctively, she swiped to answer. "Hi, you must be Maya's mom-in-law. Is she around?" "No," Helen said quietly. "She's in the shower. This is Helen." "Oh, well, just tell her I'm so excited. This trip is going to be amazing. 4 girls, 0 stress, total reset." "4?" Helen asked, her voice calm, barely audible. "Yeah, Maya, Nisha, me, and Alex, obviously. We're calling it our no-drama getaway." "No offense, I know you're recovering and all." Helen felt the words hit somewhere between her stomach and her spine. "None taken," she said. "I'll let her know you called." She hung up before the tears could surface. That night, when the house was finally quiet and the printer had stopped humming, Helen opened her laptop and logged into the Shared Travel Points account, an account she had opened 5 years ago under her name. She'd added Alex and Maya later, after their honeymoon. Back then, they had no money. She'd cashed in her points to send them to Santorini. "You'll always be a part of our memories," Maya had said, holding Helen's hand with syrupy gratitude. Now, Helen's cursor hovered over the latest redemption. 7-night Riviera cruise, premium suite, $7,182. Traveler names: Alex W., Maya W., Lena P., Nisha P. Her name wasn't missing. It had been erased. Helen stared at the screen, her fingers suddenly still. The cruise was real, the booking confirmed, and every single point used came from her account. They used my miles, my home, my patience, and left me off the manifest. Helen didn't scream, didn't confront. She didn't even let her tone crack. Instead, she smiled through breakfast like everything tasted normal, even though the eggs were undercooked and her pain meds were starting to wear off. The sound of Maya's heels clicking across the hardwood echoed louder than usual that morning. She moved with the energy of someone thrilled to be going somewhere. Helen watched her pour oat milk into a travel mug, applying lip balm with one hand while swiping through her phone with the other. "Have you seen my passport?" Helen asked lightly, like she'd just remembered it. "I think I tucked it into the filing drawer." Maya glanced up, startled for a beat, then her face reassembled into a careful smile. "Oh," she said, laughing softly. "You don't need that yet, right? Better to just focus on healing." Helen nodded slowly. "Of course." From upstairs, Alex's voice chimed in. "Babe, did you pack the seasickness bands?" Maya called back. "Already in the day bag." Helen stirred her coffee slowly, the spoon tapping against the ceramic like a clock ticking inside her chest. Her abdomen throbbed, half from the surgery, half from the hollow ache of being reduced to an afterthought in her own home. That night, after the house went still, Helen sat at her small desk in the guest room, formerly the storage room where she now slept. The sheets were new, crisp with detergent and unfamiliarity. The thermostat barely reached this part of the house. She tugged her cardigan tighter around her and opened her laptop. She logged back into the travel rewards account. Her name was still at the top. Helen Dawson, primary member. Maya had linked her own email and profile for convenience years ago after Helen let her manage the cruise bookings. Now Helen could see everything: the cabin number, the dining schedule, even the optional excursions in Cozumel, snorkeling, sunset sail, tequila tasting. Not one of them sounded like something Maya had ever offered Helen before. Not one of them looked wheelchair accessible, not that Helen needed one, but they certainly assumed she might. Helen clicked Account Settings. There it was. Reset password. Her cursor hovered over it. She clicked. The site prompted her to confirm her email for the reset link. She typed her address slowly. A small green check mark confirmed the change was successful. But as soon as she hit send, she heard it. A ding. It didn't come from her laptop. It came from the hallway. Maya's phone sitting on the entryway table, screen lit up. New email, Cruise Pro, reset link for your account has been requested. Helen froze, the seconds dragged. She didn't move, she didn't blink. Then footsteps from upstairs, not heavy, just enough to make her blood run colder than the tile beneath her feet. She reached forward and closed her laptop, carefully, slowly. Her breath was shallow, heart hammering like a guilty drum. The footsteps paused, then a voice. "Everything okay down there?" It was Alex. Helen cleared her throat. "Just getting water." He didn't respond. A door creaked open upstairs, Maya's voice now. "Did someone ring the doorbell?" "No, Mom's in the kitchen." Another pause. Helen reached for a glass in the sink, filled it, and took a sip, trying to look casual in case anyone came down. But no one did. Upstairs, Maya's door clicked shut again. Helen exhaled just once, just enough. She took her laptop back into the guest room and locked the door for the first time since she'd been home from surgery. The next morning, Maya was chipper again. She offered Helen fresh fruit with a little too much cheer, asking if she wanted help getting dressed. "No, I'm fine," Helen said. "You sure? You look pale." "Just tired." "Well," Maya said, sipping her smoothie, "don't overdo it. This is your time to rest." Helen nodded, her voice like silk drawn tight over a blade. "That's exactly what I'm doing." Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed. Password reset complete. Helen's access was restored. But her pulse stopped when she saw another message flash beside it. Unusual login detected, Maya W. Had she seen it? Was the game already over or just beginning? They created a group chat to plan the cruise. I was in the house, but never invited. The ping didn't belong to Helen. It came from the kitchen counter, the shared family iPad, propped up on its magnetic stand like a silent sentinel. She passed by it only because the tea kettle had whistled and the water had boiled over again. Her hand still trembled from surgery when she moved quickly, but it was her house. She refused to flinch in it. The screen lit up with a string of messages flashing in quick succession. like a cruel drum roll, group chat, family cruise. Planning Maya? Don't forget the matching cover-ups. Maya's sister. I got 3. Helen sighs though, LOL. Maya's cousin. She wouldn't enjoy it anyway. Maya. Can't do buffets or beaches with her meds. Helen stood still, water boiling behind her. The steam fogged the kitchen window, but her vision narrowed into sharp clarity. She'd been in the next room, breathing the same air, under the same roof. She scrolled without thinking, impulses moving faster than pain. The chat was full of links, spa packages, dinner reservations, excursion suggestions. Every message built a vacation brick by brick atop her exclusion. No one mentioned her name again after those first few jabs. She didn't even exist in the packing list. Helen tapped the corner of the screen, entering the app's admin panel. The travel itinerary was synced to their shared email, hers, technically, but Maya had installed the app's. She logged in again, using her own password, the one Maya hadn't changed yet. The interface blinked alive. Cruise line booking number CRX72846. 4 guests confirmed. Helen clicked through slowly. Main cabin suite, paid in full. Alex Dawson, Maya Williams, Lily James, Maya's sister, Camilla Williams, Maya's cousin. She stared at the guest list, her breath thin as thread. A new button blinked next to each name, replace passenger. She hovered over it, unsure why, maybe just to see what would happen. Helen tapped it once, Maya's name highlighted in red. The app asked, enter passenger to replace Maya Williams. She didn't type anything, not yet. She just sat there. Outside, the wind moved the trees like a memory brushing her skin. She thought of that summer when Alex was 12. He'd gotten pneumonia from a week-long flu camped out in his chest. She'd spoon-fed him mashed bananas and wiped his sweat-drenched forehead every 2 hours. One night, he woke up gasping, hallucinating from the fever. Don't let me drown, he whispered between sobs, his voice cracking like brittle glass. She had held him against her chest for hours, rocking and humming until the sun came up. Now, here he was, planning group excursions and snorkeling tours, leaving her off the safety list. She didn't cry. Her eyes stung, but the tears didn't fall. The betrayal was too wide to weep over. It settled in her bones like marrow. Back on the screen, the placeholder field blinked again. Helen typed H. Dawson in the replacement field. The app flickered. The system didn't reject it. She stopped short of confirming it, but now she knew she could do it. With one press of a button, she could take Maya off the manifest. Her finger hovered again. She didn't press confirm, not yet, but she didn't exit either. Instead, she saved the page and took a screenshot just in case. Then she closed the app, shut down the iPad, and walked upstairs. Not to the guest room, to the master. The bed was made, the pillows fluffed, the curtains open wide to the light. The scent of eucalyptus linen spray lingered in the air, Maya's expensive one, the one Helen had originally bought during chemo recovery. Helen sat at the edge of the bed, one palm on the comforter. They thought she didn't belong in the photo. She'd rewrite the whole frame. That night, with the house quiet and the world asleep, Helen reopened the app and tapped Replace Passenger again. This time, she typed her name and pressed confirm. They said, it just sorta happened. So did my plan. Helen sat in the guest room chair, its cushion still too firm, still not hers, staring at the wall like it might offer her an answer, or at least a reason. Downstairs, she could hear Maya humming, the sound light and irritating, punctuated by the zipper snap of a suitcase. The air was sweet with the scent of coconut body lotion, the artificial kind that clung to furniture long after someone had left. Alex's laugh followed, then the click of an Instagram story being filmed. Helen didn't flinch. Her laptop sat open in front of her, a spreadsheet glowing back at her like a blueprint for revenge. She wasn't angry yet. What she felt was colder, sharper, like clarity after anesthesia. She opened a blank notepad document and typed the first 2 sentences out loud. It must have been a glitch. I must have hit something by mistake. Helen repeated them softly, like a student preparing a performance, her fallback plan in case they noticed. They wouldn't, not yet. Maya had spent the morning talking about matching spa day outfits, and Alex was busy comparing excursion reviews on YouTube. No one had mentioned Helen's name since the morning she'd asked about her passport. Maya had smiled like a mother speaking to a child, soft, slow, controlling. Oh, you don't need that yet, right? Better focus on healing. Helen remembered that tone. It was the same one used in hospitals when they told her to let the younger folks take care of things. Now she clicked back into the travel portal, a quiet breath, then another. On the screen was the new placeholder booking. Hers, not Maya's. Still unconfirmed, still quiet. She scrolled further down and found the cancellation policy. Her name was still listed as the original account owner. It was the same credit card she'd used to book Alex and Maya's honeymoon years ago, back when Alex had just lost his job and Maya was between gigs. The cruise line phone number was at the bottom. Helen called it. A robotic voice answered first. She entered her booking ID, then her last 4 digits. After 5 minutes on hold, a soft-spoken woman named Serena answered. Thank you for calling Lux Voyages. How can I help you today, Ms. Dawson? Helen kept her tone steady, friendly. I just wanted to confirm if I were to request a cancellation, that's something I can do as the primary account holder. Yes. Serena paused only slightly. Yes, absolutely. As long as you're the card holder and the name on the booking, we can process that anytime. You also have the right to modify guest information as long as the passport and legal travel documents are accurate at check-in. Helen smiled without showing her teeth. Perfect, she said. Also, could you duplicate the current itinerary under a new booking ID? Exact details, same room type, same dates. I just want it held. You want to book a second version of your own cruise? Helen nodded to no one. Yes, but don't activate it. Just hold it. I'll call when I'm ready. Later that evening, Helen stood in front of the mirror in the master bathroom. Maya's monogrammed silk robe hung behind the door, dripping with irony. The lights buzzed gently above the vanity, and the reflection staring back at her looked tired but not weak. She tapped into her voicemail and scrolled down to the message from her sister. It had arrived 2 weeks post-surgery and had gone unanswered until now. You're too soft, Helen. You always were. They treat you like an old appliance, useful until broken, then put in storage. Helen didn't delete the message. She played it again and then again. She thought of all the times she'd apologized for simply existing in the same house they use like a free hotel. She thought of the silk robe, the travel points, the recovery guest room. She thought of her scar, still healing. When she opened her laptop again, she didn't hesitate. She typed a note to herself titled, Plan Finalization, T-1 day. It read 8:00 a.m. Cancel their itinerary, 8:05 a.m. Confirm new itinerary under my name. 8:10 a.m. Delete Maya's user access. She pressed save. Her phone buzzed, a message from Maya. Don't forget we'll be gone all next week. Let us know if you need anything while we're away. Helen stared at it, then archived it. Helen redialed Lux Voyages and spoke softly into the receiver. I'm ready to activate the backup booking, but don't email anything yet. Let me time this right. They packed swimsuits. I packed a consequence. Helen stirred her tea slowly that morning, watching steam curl against the kitchen window. Outside, the world moved casually. Delivery vans, a neighbor jogging, the rhythm of ordinary life. But inside the house, the energy was electric. Excited chatter, slamming drawers, the high-pitched whir of Maya's hairdryer from the master bath. Don't forget the sunscreen this time, Maya shouted upstairs. And your sandals. The nice ones, not the beat-up pair. Helen sat still, her laptop open beside her. Her cursor hovered over one button. Cancel reservation. The house had been buzzing since dawn. Maya had gotten a facial the night before, and now she was doing a full outfit lineup on the bed, speaking to no one and everyone at once. Alex was on the phone with Maya's cousin, laughing about drink packages and poolside cabanas. No one asked Helen if she needed anything. No one even said goodbye. They were leaving the next morning. A 7-day luxury cruise along the Riviera, complete with onboard wine tastings, island excursions, and couples massages. Helen knew every detail now. She'd memorized the itinerary. She'd also memorized the passenger list, and she wasn't on it. The screen blinked again. Primary traveler Helen Dawson. Cancel reservation? She clicked once, then again to confirm. The confirmation email pinged her inbox at 7:48 a.m. By 8:10 a.m., she'd rebooked the cruise under the same names, Alex and Maya's full legal information, passports, and cabin preferences intact. But this time, she was the billing contact. She created a temporary email and had the digital tickets routed there. Then she added a trigger, cancel automatically at 11:59 p.m. the night before departure. All it took was 4 minutes of admin work to undo months of their quiet betrayal. At lunch, Alex tossed his keys on the counter and said, "Can you water the front plants while we're gone, Mom?" Helen nodded. "Of course." "Appreciate it," he said, already halfway back upstairs. He didn't notice the tremble in her hand or the still warm tea going untouched. That night, Maya set her suitcase by the door with a dramatic sigh. "Can't wait to get on that boat and unplug." Helen smiled faintly. "You'll finally get some rest." Maya didn't catch the edge in her voice. She was too busy checking her nails for chips. At 11:58 p.m., Helen walked quietly to her bedroom. Her phone cast a soft glow as she tapped into the cruise line's dashboard. Status, active, cancel reservation. She clicked, the page refreshed. Status canceled by primary traveler. Refund pending. She sat on the edge of her bed and exhaled. No adrenaline, no gloating, just stillness, the kind that arrives after a house has been emptied of sound, of noise, of lies. She didn't sleep that night, not really. She lay in bed, listening to the occasional creak of the old wood floors, the refrigerator hum, the quiet patter of rain starting on the roof. At dawn, the door closed with a faint click. They were gone. By 10:05 a.m., Helen stood in her kitchen in a soft cardigan, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. The silence felt full. Her phone was on the counter, face down, still on silent. Then it began. The first vibration, then another, then rapid fire. She didn't check. Instead, she walked to the window and cracked it open. The air outside was crisp, the scent of wet bark and distant ocean lifting in the breeze. Far away, in a different world, Maya was pacing furiously inside a port terminal, sunglasses pushed up into her hair, voice shrill. "What do you mean it was canceled?" She barked into her phone. "We were on the list. We checked in." A calm cruise line staff member was trying to explain. "It was canceled by the primary traveler on the account. We have the timestamp here, last night just before midnight." Maya looked up, eyes darting. "That makes no sense. I am the account holder." The woman shook her head. "Actually, no, you weren't." Alex stood a few steps away, looking pale, confused. He opened his phone again. No messages from Helen, just that strange silence that was starting to echo louder than any alarm. And back in the kitchen, Helen finally turned the phone over. 30 missed calls, 4 voicemails. She didn't press play, but the last one came through as a text, all caps, all fury. "Who the hell did this?" Helen took another sip of her coffee. Outside, the rain thickened. She placed the mug down carefully and turned to water the front plants. Maya stormed out of the port terminal, shouting into her phone. Back home, Helen's phone lit up on the kitchen counter, Maya's name flashing like a warning. Then Alex, then Maya again. The buzzing felt like a siege. Helen stood at the sink, calmly slicing a tomato. By 6:15 a.m., she'd silenced the ringer. By 6:20, notifications were off. Not avoidance, choice. The house was still. No slammed drawers, no curling irons humming, just the fridge and the garden birds outside. She took her breakfast onto the porch, the patio dusty with pollen, the herbs wilting. She bit into toast and watched the feeder fill with birds. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't move. Inside, her tablet showed the cruise cancellation. No errors, no loopholes. Closed at 11:59 p.m., exactly as planned. Just a change of mind, on record and final. And yet Maya's rage was becoming public. At 8:40 a.m., Helen opened her browser and saw the first post. Maya Williams, Maya W. Soul Style. Some people will ruin your peace just because they don't have their own. Toxicity doesn't age gracefully. The comments were already piling up, friends chiming in with, "What happened?" And DM me, followed by a few vague sympathizers, people who knew nothing but were eager to gossip. Helen didn't comment. She just watched, quiet, unbothered, untagged. Martha, her old friend from church who now lived a few cities over, texted not long after, Martha, Helen, did something happen? Maya's being cryptic and dramatic. Helen, they left me behind. I just returned the favor. Martha's reply came seconds later. Martha, oh my God, you didn't. Helen didn't reply to that either. She didn't need to. By noon, the sun had warmed the garden, and Helen was on her knees with her gloves, clipping back the overgrown lavender bush. Bees buzzed lazily around her elbows, dirt clung to the cuffs of her sleeves, and the act of digging, of planting something again, made her feel tethered to herself for the first time in weeks. She breathed in the scent of the rosemary, smiled faintly at the persistence of mint forcing its way out of the broken pot. There was a kind of poetry to it. What grows even when neglected, what survives being forgotten. She didn't hear the alert at first, her email app pinging from the porch bench where she'd left her phone face down. When she finally picked it up, the screen was already dim. She tapped it. A new email waited in bold. Subject: Account status change, travel company. From noreply.etravelco.com. Message: Preview: You have been removed as a linked user by Maya Williams. Helen's thumb hovered over the message. Removed, just like that. All ties severed. She sat on the porch bench and read the email twice, not because she was surprised, but because it confirmed what she already knew. The second Maya couldn't control her, she'd try to erase her. Helen didn't cry. She didn't panic. She stood, walked inside, and placed the phone on the charger. Her tea had gone cold, but she drank it anyway. The garden waited for her return, and somewhere out there, so did Maya's next move. Helen received the email. You've been removed as a linked account by Maya Williams. They called it fraud. Helen said nothing. Truth doesn't beg. A soft knock on the guest room door. She was folding a towel when Alex spoke, hesitant. Mom, can I come in? She opened the door slowly. He stood there, unsure. We think something happened, maybe fraud. Someone canceled the cruise. Helen sat on the bed, posture serene. Then I guess the person who booked it changed their mind. Alex froze. You mean you? She didn't answer. Silence did the work. From the hallway, Maya's voice. No one just changes their mind like that. This was deliberate. Alex added quietly, she thinks someone saw the emails, maybe you. Helen met his eyes. You're asking if I accessed a trip I paid for, with my points, my credit? Alex looked down, no more words, just truth hanging in the air like a locked door. She softened, barely. You know, when you were 12, you once stood in front of me at the grocery store and told off a man for cutting in line. You said, that's my mom. She was here first. A pause. I was, she added. I was here first. He swallowed hard, the weight of her words thick in his throat. I'm not saying you did anything, he muttered. Maya's freaking out. She says she's calling the bank. From the living room, the sound of a phone being placed forcefully on a table echoed through the hallway. Then came Maya's voice, sharp and breaking. She used my identity. She accessed my accounts. I'm calling the bank. Helen didn't flinch. She stood and walked past Alex toward her nightstand. She opened the drawer and pulled out a manila folder, then paused. Instead of handing it to him, she placed it on the dresser in plain view. Whatever she says, remember this, I didn't need her identity. She borrowed mine the day she walked into this house. Alex didn't reply. Down the hall, Maya's voice grew louder, slinging accusations to whoever was on the other end of the line. Helen picked up her teacup and walked to the door. I'm going to the garden, she said quietly. If anyone needs me, they can come with facts. And with that, she left Alex standing alone in a room that wasn't his, trying to remember if it ever had been. Helen hears Maya scream from the living room. She used my identity. I'm calling the bank. They locked me out of the account but couldn't lock me out of memory. The notification came in with a sharp chime, a sound far too cheerful for what it delivered. Your primary access to Travel Plus has been revoked by Maya Williams. Helen stared at the glowing screen for a moment. She simply sat with it. The room was quiet save for the distant murmur of the kitchen faucet someone had left dripping. Outside, a crow called once, long and sharp, as if echoing her thoughts. Her fingers hovered over the touchscreen. Then she locked the phone and placed it down slowly on the side table. So, that's how it would go. Not a conversation, not a request, not even a passive-aggressive warning, just a removal, as if she were a setting on an account that no longer served its purpose. Helen didn't cry. Instead, she stood up, walked across her room, and opened the top drawer of her old oak filing cabinet. Dust danced in the air as the metal tracks groaned. Her fingers sifted through the manila folders like flipping through the years, wedding receipts, insurance records, her son's old report cards. And then there it was, cruise line credit statement. Year 2017, issued to Helen Dawson. Payment method, Helen's personal travel rewards card. Her hand trembled, not from age, but from memory. That spring, Alex had been broke. Maya was panicked about the honeymoon. Helen stepped in quietly, offering to pay. "You'll never get these days back," she'd said. Maya had hugged her. "You'll always be part of our memories." Now, Helen stared at the folder on her lap, her account, her loyalty number, and yet somehow she was the villain. She closed it gently and pulled an old flip phone from her nightstand. One voicemail remained, Mark, her late husband. She pressed play. "Hey, babe. I just wanted to say you did good. With Alex, with everything. You gave him all the right tools. If he forgets that someday, don't remind him. Show him." Show him? Helen's eyes didn't well with tears. They steeled. She dialed Cruise International Support. "This is Angela. How can I help?" "I need a full printed statement for my account. All booking activity from the last 6 months, confirmations, changes, edits, payments." "Are you disputing a charge?" "No," Helen said. "I'm documenting one." "Personal or legal?" Helen paused. "Legal." She hung up, exhaled, and let the silence settle. It wasn't about payback. It was about worth. Her name had always been there. They just forgot. She was about to remind them. Helen folds the cruise receipt, tucks it into the folder with her name, and whispers as she seals the envelope, "Let's see who booked what now." He asked, "Was it you?" And I didn't lie, but I didn't confess either. Helen was pouring the last of the kettle's water into her teacup when she heard the shuffle behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know it was Alex. His footsteps were quieter than usual, cautious, maybe even apologetic, but the energy that followed him was heavy. He lingered at the threshold of the kitchen like he was waiting for permission to enter a space he once freely roamed. His voice came low, threaded with hesitation. "Mom, was it you?" She didn't flinch. The spoon stirred calmly in the tea, the porcelain cup tapping lightly with each rotation. Steam rose between them, fogging the silence. "Was what me?" she asked, eyes never leaving her tea. "The cruise?" he said, barely louder than a whisper. "Did you cancel it?" Helen finally looked up, the light from the window drawing thin lines across her face. She didn't smile, she didn't accuse. She just met his eyes with a calm so composed it made his voice falter. "Did you really book a family vacation while I was recovering from surgery?" She replied, tone flat as winter ground. Alex's mouth opened, then shut. His hand curled around the edge of the counter like he needed to hold on to something. "It wasn't like that," he mumbled. "We just needed a break. We needed to breathe." Helen took a slow sip of her tea, jasmine, still warm, still full of quiet bite. "You got your air," she said softly. "I got the silence." He winced. That landed deeper than he expected. He looked older suddenly, more like the little boy who once ran to her when he scraped his knee, and less like the man who'd quietly let his wife exile his mother from a vacation funded with her own life savings. "I didn't mean for you to feel excluded," he said. "You didn't mean to include me either," she said. "That's what made the difference." The kettle clicked as it cooled on the stove. A clock ticked in the background. Somewhere down the hall, a television hummed with muted voices. Alex glanced down, guilt swimming behind his lashes. "Maya thought it would be better if—" Helen cut him off gently. "Don't explain her. You lived here too." For a long moment, he just stood there, staring at the linoleum floor like it might offer answers. His chest rose, fell, stilled. I miss how it used to be, he murmured. Helen tilted her head. You mean when I paid the bills and stayed invisible? Alex didn't answer. He couldn't. Something tightened in her chest. Not anger, not even resentment anymore, just grief. The soft ache of watching a child grow away instead of up. She had raised him to be strong. She hadn't realized he'd need her weakness to feel powerful. I never wanted things to go this way, Alex said. Helen looked at him. Then you should have stopped them when they did. For a moment he looked ready to apologize, but the words never came. She walked past him, pausing at the doorway. Not everything that breaks makes a sound. Upstairs her phone blinked. New alert. Legal inquiry opened under your name. Subject, identity dispute. Pulse quickening, Helen opened the email. The subject, fraud claim, travel cancellation under investigation, initiated by Maya Williams. They thought she committed fraud. She had receipts. The call came while she was watering herbs. The hose snapped shut in her hand when the screen lit up. Law offices of Rennick and Gable. Helen Dawson? The voice said. This is Naomi Rennick. We've reviewed the inquiry. I just got off the phone with the cruise line. And? Helen asked. You're fine. The reservation was paid from a card in your name. The account, the points, it's all yours. You didn't impersonate anyone. If anything, you were the one being impersonated. Helen stood still. So I'm not being investigated? You were, Naomi replied. But the logs cleared you. She tried to file a criminal claim, but walked into her own mess. Helen exhaled slowly. Truth doesn't beg. It just waits. Later that afternoon, Helen sat across a sleek glass table in the small downtown office of a travel fraud investigator. The woman across from her had a clipboard, a red pen, and the kind of silence that demanded truth before anything else. Helen handed over a manila envelope, screenshots, card statements, booking emails. I've included the first cruise Maya and Alex took years ago. I paid for that one, too. She used the same login credentials this time. The investigator flipped through, pausing at the highlighted charge, $6,238.42 luxury Caribbean cruise charged to Helen Dawson. I also have this, Helen said, reaching into her handbag for a folded paper. The booking duplicate I created under my name. It never went through because I canceled it before payment, but the activity log is time-stamped. The woman nodded. You were authorized on all fronts? Yes, Helen said, but I was never invited. There was no rage in her voice now, just weariness, a quiet clarity born from weeks of being both forgotten and blamed. They left me out of their plans, she added, but couldn't complete them without my signature. The investigator set the papers aside and folded her hands. I'll be issuing a recommendation to close the case. In fact, if you wanted to file a countersuit or seek damages, Helen raised a hand. I don't want money. I want the record to reflect that I was erased, then blamed. The woman nodded. Understood. Helen stood, adjusting her cardigan. As she turned, the investigator added, For what it's worth, she owes you money. Helen paused at the door. The word struck, not as revenge, but as balance. Outside, the wind tugged at her scarf. She let it fly. At home, her inbox pinged, case closed, claim denied, no fraudulent activity found. She stared, then calmly clicked archive. Upstairs, she passed Alex. He opened his mouth to speak. She kept walking. A new message came through from Maya. Just tell me how much you want. We can fix this. Helen powered off her phone. She had what she needed, not revenge, proof. That night at her desk, she opened her will. Will update Helen Dawson. She hovered over Alex's name, then pressed delete. She accused me of fraud. I sent her bank statement copies she forgot I had access to. Helen didn't raise her voice. She raised receipts. In the quiet hum of the early morning, she sat at her modest desk in the guest room, light from the window casting long stripes across her printer. The machine blinked as it came alive, spitting out page after page. Each click was deliberate, each image sharpened, screenshots of booking confirmations, time-stamped transactions, archived emails, and one very specific itinerary from 5 years ago titled Maya and Alex Honeymoon Gift from Helen. She remembered that cruise, the smiles, the thank yous. Maya hugging her like a daughter. "You'll always be part of our memories," she'd said. And now she'd tried to rewrite history and make Helen the villain in her own home. The envelope she stuffed the documents into was thick. She sealed it with a single strip of tape, the sound slicing the silence of the house like a verdict. No explanation note, just the facts. The truth didn't need decoration. Later that afternoon, while Maya was on a loud phone call in the kitchen, voice clipped with frustration, Helen found Alex in the den. He looked tired, confused, a man standing in a fog of conflicting loyalties. "Hey, Mom," he said, hesitant. Maya said the lawyer said, "Look, I don't know what's going on anymore." Helen offered no comfort. She simply extended the folder across the table. "What's this?" "You asked for the truth," Helen said. "This is all I have left of it." Alex opened the folder. Inside, cruise documents in her name, credit card records of years of giving, a 2018 note from Maya. "Thank you again for the trip. I'll never forget this." His brow furrowed deeper with each page. "I didn't know," he murmured. "She told me you insisted." Helen said nothing. The silence spoke for her. "She said you tried to sabotage us." Helen's voice was calm. "No, I let you sabotage yourselves." The hum of the fridge filled the pause. Maya's laughter echoed faintly from the kitchen, now brittle. Helen remembered the first time Maya cried in this house, newly laid off and afraid. Helen had comforted her, whispered, "You're family now. We don't count debts here." But Maya had. And now the ledger had surfaced. Alex set the folder down. "So what happens now?" "That's not up to me," Helen replied. "You're still the one choosing." That night, while the house slept, Helen tended her lemon tree in the backyard. The air was cool. A branch had grown crooked. She snipped it clean. Alex appeared in the doorway, hands deep in his pockets. "I have a question," he said. Helen didn't turn. "Go on." "If I left her," his voice cracked, almost too soft to hear, "would you still want me around?" She paused mid-trim. The night was still. Her fingers tightened around the shears. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she clipped one last branch, dropped it into the compost bin, and turned to him with eyes neither angry nor forgiving, just true. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She simply walked past him, back into the house, leaving the door open behind her. They thought the house was forever. I thought silence would be enough. We were both wrong. Helen waited until the house was empty, Maya at a Pilates class, Alex out grabbing groceries, before slipping the manila folder into her tote bag and driving downtown to her lawyer's office. It was time. For weeks, she'd lived in limbo between action and restraint, rage and restraint. But now the fog had cleared. Her name had been weaponized, her kindness erased, her silence mistaken for surrender. So she gave herself permission to stop waiting for them to do the right thing and begin doing the right thing for herself. The office was small but comfortable, perched above a florist shop, with jasmine-scented air floating through the hallway. As she sat across from Margaret, her attorney of 20 years, Helen placed the folder on the desk. "I want to make changes," she said plainly. Margaret, brows rising behind her glasses, flipped it open and began scanning the contents. "You're certain?" "More than I've ever been," Helen said, voice steady. The legal updates were swift. Alex removed from her will, the house placed in a revocable trust protecting her equity and control. No one could speak for her again. "I want to live where I'm not a ghost with a title deed," she said. That afternoon, she toured the co-housing complex she'd bookmarked. Flower boxes, shared garden, peace. Martha lived there now. The leasing agent smiled. "Would you like an application?" Helen nodded. "Already filled out." Back home, she moved through the attic slowly, choosing what mattered. Photo albums, a few sweaters, not everything, just enough. For the first time in months, every motion felt intentional. At the back of the closet, a shoebox labeled taxes and loans caught her eye. She almost discarded it until she saw her own signature. Inside, tucked between papers, was Maya's loan agreement. Co-signer, Helen Dawson. Helen sat down on the attic floor as if the air had been sucked out of her lungs. The date was 4 years ago. During that time, Maya had begged Helen for help, said it was just to consolidate wedding debt, promised she'd handle it herself. Helen remembered signing something quickly over the kitchen island, trusting as always, without asking too many questions. And here it was, still active, still unpaid, still her name, her credit, her responsibility. Her fingertips went cold. This wasn't just about a cruise, it had never just been about the trip. This was a pattern, a structure built quietly on her back while they stood on the porch and waved at the neighborhood like everything was earned. She swallowed hard, heart thudding in her chest, not out of panic, but power. For the first time in years, Helen no longer saw herself as cornered. She saw herself as holding the pen. She picked up her phone and opened her banking app. A single line from the co-signed loan glared at her. Balance 27,342.62. Helen whispered aloud, "Let's see how well they stand when I stop holding them up." They thought I needed them. Their credit was built on my signature. The paper sat like a quiet accusation in Helen's lap, the edges worn from years in that forgotten box. The page with her signature felt heavier than the rest, as if it had soaked up the weight of every assumption Maya had made since the day Helen handed her trust across the kitchen island. Helen had co-signed that loan to help her son's wife start fresh. She hadn't asked for much in return, just kindness, maybe inclusion. Instead, she'd been given condescension and cruise tickets in someone else's name. But now she had proof. And for once, the law was hers to hold. She took the loan paperwork to Margaret the next morning. The lawyer read in silence, then looked up slowly. "You know you're still legally responsible for this, but..." She flipped to the back page, tapping a clause with a polished nail. "You're within your rights to withdraw co-signer liability, especially since you were never notified of the recent payment." "Extensions," Helen nodded. "Do it. File everything." Margaret hesitated. "You understand what this will trigger, right?" "Oh," Helen smiled, cool and quiet. "I understand better than they ever did." 3 days later, Maya was on a FaceTime call with her sister when the first ping arrived. Alert significant credit change on account ending in 4261. She stared at it, confused, clicking through to her banking app. Then she froze. Credit score. Decrease. 78 points. "Wait, what the hell?" she muttered. Alex looked up from the kitchen counter. "Something wrong?" I I don't know. My card's been flagged. What's this cosigner alert?" Her voice pitched, teetering toward panic. She barely finished the sentence before the phone slipped from her hand. She wouldn't, but she had. Maya didn't call to ask questions. She called to accuse. The phone rang and rang until Helen finally answered, not out of obligation, but out of a calculated pause. She wanted Maya to stew just enough. "You withdrew," Maya barked, skipping hello. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Helen's voice was soft. "I took my name back. It was mine to take. This is financial sabotage." "No," Helen replied, tone even. "It's financial independence. You've been living on my name. Time to build something on yours. You've ruined my credit, my applications, my leasing options. This affects everything." Helen didn't shout. She simply said, "Now you know how much I was worth." There was a pause, then a growl of disbelief. The call ended with Maya's voice breaking. "You're going to regret this." Helen sat in her living room, phone still warm in her hand, but her heart surprisingly still. Later that evening, the house was quiet except for the low murmur of a fan spinning in the guest room. Helen was folding laundry when Alex appeared in the doorway, his silhouette halting. He didn't look angry, just tired. "I know about the loan," he said finally. Helen turned but didn't respond. She continued folding a towel with precise corners. "She didn't tell me you were still on it," he added. "That your name was behind her credit score all these years." Helen paused, smoothing a wrinkle with her palm. "It's amazing what people forget when it's convenient." He stepped further into the room. "I've been thinking about everything. The cruise, the way we talked about you, the way we didn't." His voice cracked slightly. "I've let you down." Helen looked up. Her eyes were tired but soft. "Yes, but I never stopped waiting for you to realize it." A long silence then, almost too quietly. If I left her, would you still want me around? That question pierced deeper than the loan, deeper than the cruise. Helen set the folded towel down, walked over and touched her son's cheek gently, like she had when he was little and feverish and afraid of the dark. I want the version of you who remembers how we got here, she whispered, not the one who forgot who helped build the map. 2 mornings later, Helen stepped out onto her front porch with her tea and opened a large envelope from the co-housing development. Inside was a lease agreement, a welcome letter, and a small handwritten note from the coordinator. We are thrilled to have you join us, Ms. Dawson. Move-in date confirmed next month. Your unit will be freshly painted and waiting. Helen smiled, folded the letter carefully, and looked out toward the garden where her azaleas were just beginning to bloom. She whispered aloud, "It's finally time." Helen folded her sweaters slowly, packing not with nostalgia but with quiet purpose. Each one held a version of her that had waited too long for gratitude. Now, she packed warmth for herself, not approval for others. Boxes lined the hall, labeled in her calm handwriting. Books, journals, kitchen essentials only. She left behind the performative things like Maya's charcuterie wine glasses, but the chip mug she loved came with her. No one else ever touched it. She liked that. Alex showed up on day 4, unsure whether to knock. Helen opened the door before he could. "Need help?" he asked. "If you're offering," she said, simple, honest. They packed in silence. Each box he carried felt like an unspoken apology. He paused at her old rocking chair. "You used to sit in this after Dad died," he said. "It always creaked." Helen smiled. "Still does." When the trunk closed on the last box, Alex stepped back. Upstairs, Maya stood behind the curtain, watching, unmoving. No goodbye. Helen didn't expect one. She didn't need it anymore. The new apartment smelled of fresh paint and lavender. Sunlight spilled across the hardwood floors, catching in the specks of dust that danced like small blessings in the air. The space was small, 2 rooms, 1 balcony, no stairs, but every square inch whispered, "Yours." Helen opened a window, let the breeze in, and stood for a moment with her eyes closed. No tension in her spine, no muffled laughter behind doors she'd been told not to open. Just her breathing, steady and sure. She unpacked slowly, starting with the bookshelf. Only her favorites made the cut: poetry, cookbooks with margin notes, the worn novel she read while nursing Alex as an infant. Then she pulled out the photo, Alex 6 years old, tooth missing, hugging a golden retriever named Lucy. That was before the grown-up versions of him forgot how she stitched his world together with packed lunches and birthday cakes made from scratch. She placed it beside her tea mug on the window ledge. As she stepped back, admiring its new home, her phone buzzed, a notification. She reached for it. "You still have 1 unused premium voucher on file with Pacific Breeze Cruises. Would you like to redeem it or transfer to another passenger?" Helen stared at the message for a long moment. In the background, the wind moved through the lavender, carrying the faintest scent of her future. She didn't smile yet, but her shoulders dropped, and that was enough for now. She tapped the message, paused, then clicked View Options. On the screen, a prompt appeared: book for self or gift to someone else. She looked out the window and whispered, "Maybe this time I take the trip." The ship's horn echoed across the ocean as Helen stood at the rail, wind tugging at the silk scarf Maya once called "too loud for your age." Tonight it danced freely. She sipped her wine, alone but content. Not lonely, just done asking for permission. She had booked the cruise 3 nights ago from her new apartment, lavender blooming outside, Alex's photo near her tea mug. This time she didn't hesitate. Suite level, solo traveler, 1 passenger, Helen Dawson. No second ticket, no guilt. Her suite was elegant and quiet, cream linens, golden fixtures, and a note: "Welcome aboard, Ms. Dawson." Someone had remembered her name without needing to be told twice. She unpacked with intention: soft fabrics, walking shoes, the wide-brimmed hat that made her feel strong. No clothes for approval, no space for doubt. Just a woman sailing into peace she no longer needed permission to claim. That evening after dinner, she returned to the deck. A string quartet played near the entrance to the ballroom. Vivaldi, she thought. and the scent of roasted garlic drifted up from the buffet below. People danced, laughed, drifted from cocktail to cocktail, unaware of the woman leaning over the railing, watching the sun begin its slow descent. Her scarf fluttered again. She held it close. It had belonged to her mother once, passed down with the instructions. Wear it when you need to remember you're still here. She hadn't understood what that meant at the time. Now she did. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. Whatever it was, an apology, a question, a plea, it could wait. The sunset deepened, shades of coral and violet melting into the sea. A steward walked by and paused politely. "Miss Dawson, we're about to begin the stargazing session at the bow, if you'd like to join." She smiled. "Maybe later." He nodded and disappeared. She stayed still, her eyes tracking the horizon. Her heart slower now, calmer, settled. Flashback. Weeks ago, after surgery, her doctor had stood beside her hospital bed. "Recovery isn't just about stitches healing," he had said. "It's about stitching yourself back together after being unraveled. That takes longer. It takes more courage." At the time, she had nodded, half aware. Now she felt the truth of it in every muscle that had once held grief too tightly. She spoke aloud just once. No one near her, just wind and water and a full moon climbing. "They forgot me once. I remembered myself forever." And for the first time since coming home from that hospital bed, Helen didn't feel the scar tug beneath her shirt. She didn't feel the need to rehearse what she would say to Alex or Maya. She didn't wonder who missed her. She simply let go. "They left me behind. I sailed ahead."